Thank you so much. And yeah, we're so grateful for you all. Thank you for joining us in this virtual luminous space. We can't wait to share these beautiful poets, essayists, fiction writers with you all.
You jump in?
Let's do it.
I think we had Gwendalynn up first. Gwendalynn, did you want somebody to introduce you, or are you comfortable with me reading your bio?
I'm with you reading my bio.
All right. So I will introduce, let me pull this up. Okay. Well, first up is Gwendalynn Roebke. Am I saying that right?
It's Roebke.
Roebke, see. Gwendalynn Roebke is a Black, multiracial, gender nonconforming, they, them, just doing their best to exist. They write and perform poems and had their first full-length collection, a Brux's Manifesto, published by Really Serious Literature in the fall of 2021. They derive much of the subject matter of their poems from their eclectic undergraduate studies around neuroscience, astrophysics, and existentialism. Currently, Gwendalynn is studying for an MA in Social and Applied Philosophy at Marquette University. Are they a poet? Debatable. Really, they just want to write interesting things and design their own tattoos. So welcome, Gwendalynn.
Hi, folks. So I was very excited when James reached out to me on the behest of Brice, who I've worked with several times. And it's nice to be performing poetry again. I know with the pandemic, it's been really difficult to have these kinds of community spaces. And I think I actually really do enjoy Zoom readings. I enjoy the comfort of being in my house. I like having community that's not necessarily around like a lot of noise or music or drinking. And I think it's a new opportunity for poets and writers and creatives to be in community, but also in distance. And I think it's a really interesting practice. Of course, I need the pandemic to be over. I would love, not the constant fear of getting Rona, which I have not yet had, knock on wood. But without further ado, I'd love to share some work with you. And so some of the things I'll be sharing will of course be from my book. This is Manifesto. I designed this cover in tandem with my friend, Jasmine Holmes. She does really amazing art. And then some new poems I'm working on that I want to put into a collection sometime down the road when I'm not writing term papers. So the first piece I'm going to share with you is Hoya. Refitted from my mouth, I keep crossroads. There's only one of them I keep with me. They got rusty syllables for a name, and they're enough of me to know never to ask that I stumble through saying it. I could sit here and write what was requested, a poem that breaks the skin, floral, folding into a hymn, a harness so you can keep yourself here. It's the home whose residents had fangs surface on the valves of their aortas, yowling with each compression. It's what happens when a heart must be protected and a body brought out of the Badlands. I tend to use of instead of from. I'm not from a place, I'm of a people who rip down the sky of their own creation. Fuck you if your love is docile. Quiet won't keep clever, though you hope it might. Regression. The kept jewel in my ear, we rest and mulch. Watching a crisscross wire fence collect tumbleweeds on Monday, we'll move from the mulch to the tire swing. I will get a bloody nose, a child of leaky head and runny thoughts, and will make no effort to keep my shirt clean. From this, I will take the wisdom to only wear black, to muffle the sound of my chest, to press flowers between my favorite stanzas, and never speak of our shared name. So that is my first poem for you all. I know, so I'm gonna go between like my book and some new stuff. And so the new stuff is all untitled, unnamed. I actually usually do very long noodle titles. So I'm trying to like maybe just have an unnamed collection, which seems equally as obnoxious. So, we'll go from one extreme to the other. And the first one I'm going to share with you is just 2. It is untitled poem number 2. 1. If we were to stop talking, there would be no wound. I would leave you there, to emaciation, Saviors tend to be born into a divine unluckiness, and while I am not the one who you will name immortal, I have taken to refusing names entirely. They say leader, instead of the one who tried to survive too loudly, paid penance in the labels of cruelty and resilience. It is raining and raining. I'm on alert with the wind outside summoning me, thrashing tree leaves against my walls, peel paint. Rise as the downpour makes air dense, cleans dreams to call for the next. When the weather comes, drenched in darkness, it is my commander, the only one open enough to move me. It'll staunch the bleeding, a soaked duvet by an open window, if the chill isn't a worry. 2. It was not the dream that disturbed me, but how I woke from it, disoriented, where the sky sheds its skin every hour. I, under it, skeptical to call this the flaky dermis of the heavens snow, or maybe stardust. There's no answer in static memories, but of what I can recognize, sadness sharpens my joy. I've grown, that other stomach that seeks arms to be wrapped round it, thickened by damp suspicions, gurgling to consume music that smells like the sun, so my hips will carry weight. I'm just what it looks like when fear and freedom have their sights on one another for too long, and they cannot tell if it is infatuation or a deep and lethal hatred. 3. They're bad poems because they read of lies and strain. The poet likes the lifestyle of poet too much, and each stanza alerts us to this. What would be carefree musings are made into a statement that leaks at the first sign of showers. And authentic may be what we can call this posturing, the extractivism of suffering not theirs because it glimmers under heat. And they can't catch that heat even if they paint themselves the victim of others' tormentors, they themselves a benefactor of miseries. Do not trust these, the bad poets and their bad poems they find in other people daring to live. These are the lines of true zombies, and if you know you do not know of death, then you cannot help this. So that's the first from the untitled, unnamed kind of poems I'm writing. And they're just fun things that are just, streams of thought that are stitched together because I said that they are. And we'll see where it goes. So the next one I'm going to share with you actually skips all the way to untitled number 12. And this is all, so they're all also numbered. So I'm exploring just obnoxious formatting. It has nothing to do with, how a poem should be. But here's poem number 12. 1. The flesh is surprisingly delicate. Locate at least 3 ridges and slice accordingly, juice drawn. It climbs off the cutting board to the walls with all the gore of severed carotid artery. Gathering seeds from pomegranates is a visceral, sensual performance. Lift inner membranes, sneaking a look at food that should only be art. I say this knowing its sophistry. All that feeds us is art, nourishment, or not the pleasure of food. And preparation and consumption fills more than bellies. 2. You had to remember to put on your skin as we all did, which doesn't make it right. Communal action isn't good by consensus alone. We are all sorry for ourselves, which may later upon reflection and association mean we are sorry for one another. But we're not there yet. Dress up is all hollowed, rite of passage, as all must suffer through to become worthwhile. 3. Honey, baby, when it comes and kisses small welts on your wrists, it's not a grip telling you to stay. It's screaming that you go before it's beyond a bruise. And that's untitled number 12 for you. So some of these are much longer than others, and I don't know what to do with them. They'll just be where they are. So I'm actually quickly going to go to a chapbook that I self-released because I know this is a chapbook party. And this chapbook was something that I worked on between Colombia and the United States when I was studying there, doing research in my undergrad, and also just living my life on the beach. Even though I don't like beaches that much, surprisingly, I'm just not that flavor of person. But this was actually something that I wrote between Barranquilla, Colombia, and where I was in Boulder. It's called Elegía de los Arroyos, and it was specifically created in mind with some of the things that I really love about Colombia, and I think people don't really know. I know everyone's seen Encanto right now, which low-key has me annoyed because I think people are just realizing the diversity of people and music and art that Colombia has to offer. I am not Colombian, by the way, at all. I'm not that flavor of brown. But the title actually harkens back to one of my favorite Colombian performers, Joe Arroyo, who is, I think, well known but forgotten in the sense that his like salsa and music is so iconic that it becomes synonymous with salsa and music and dance and light, and especially Colombian culture. And so if you know anything about Colombia, has a history of violence, and not just, you know, very mundane violence, but a supreme violence, an absolute violence, a sort of like violence of both the state and the United States. And I think people also forget that a lot of that has to do with indigeneity in Colombia. It has to do with Blackness in Colombia. It's the second Blackest country in Latin America. And so that's all that was happening when I was writing this chapbook. And I think the first one I'm going to read to you, since some of these are between Spanish and English, I'm going to stick to English, is a poem called Evoke the Name of Oya, knowing she married war, clothed in storm. Tormenta y torment named her love. Floss with a hurricane, breeze between bicuspids, bite wind and two. Bitch, because she brought death, though folks forgot that there were endings before. It's a gift. Cradle the coast, carry the sea. Sister all high, honey golden, takes attention away from tempest. Uproot all latch too loosely to this land. Sing song in her honor, pour reverence into gnashing sky, redeem the breath of fury. So that's the first poem from that chapbook, and it's only like 12 poems. Also has very similar cover art because I clearly have a cover art person, and I love that person. She's very supportive. I think the next one I'll read for you, I actually did with a friend, and I'll try to then like go and translate it into English. And so recently my friend Alejandra Rojas, she was with the Denver Art Museum and put on a really beautiful installation between Black and brown artists. And so this poem, she really liked, and we created a visual piece for. And so it's called Recuerdas, Red Women Son Peligrosas. And it's just the idea, especially in the Caribbean and a lot of Black and brown communities, specifically Black, there is this colorism happening, this dynamic about who is and isn't safe and who is and isn't on the side of the oppressor. So without further ado. El duelo de alegría es un duelo perfecto y eterno. Cuando lloro, todo el mundo mi luz. Oscuridad toma asiento en mi estómago. Se hace limpio con mis lágrimas. Muero en el brazo de un sueño. Soy yo, una negrita blanca, con una sonrisa de plata, pero no tengo cara. Mi gente vive en historias sobre estrellas y mar, sobre nuestros hijos asesinados y ahogándose en su propio calor. Somos personas de luto, luto perfecto y eterno, para el fin del universo. So, the grief of joy is a grief perfect and eternal. When I cry, all of the world has light. Darkness takes a seat in my stomach, is made clean with my tears. I die in the embrace of a dream. It is I, the Black white woman, with a smile of silver, but I do not have a face. My people live in histories of stars and sea, about our children murdered, drowning in their own heat. We are people of mourning, mourning perfect and eternal, for the end of the universe. So that's that poem. It takes me a second to translate it, and it's not like a perfect translation. I'm still working on it. I think the art of translation is something one day I will have. I currently do not. And so I think, because I don't want to take up too much time. What time did we start? I think probably, let's see.
Okay.
I'm good? Okay. I'm going to do as much of whatever I want then. I think I have 3 to 4 more poems. This 9th poem, I'll actually skip to Untitled 10 so I can read more from the book. But yeah, this is another one of my Untitled's. So 1, crawling out from clenched pores, doubt breaks. 2, they're menacing, the absurdists who pressured us to choose life with all its uncertainties and still find in it nothing but love that. Embrace the strained feeling deep in our core. We sift our fingers through the dark in front of our faces as we lurch awake, thinking of who we are to be before what we hope is an inevitable day. 3, what if it doesn't come and the worry has no place to flee? Will it trail along behind us to after? 4. Views off cliffs are best unobstructed. All the drama of the drop pulls the same dread of midnight unknowing. But I wish for guardrails to lean in a little without the responsibility of keeping myself from the fall. 5. To take a tumble as flight, call nothing, and grin is a privilege. When Sark betrayed the Arab world, they did not stop thinking of existential anguish. They took it away from his abstractions to make it a path for liberation, and one could say it was best that Camus died in a car crash. After all, he might say Algeria still belonged to the French, who only sought to starve them, and their independence was a perk of actualization and not a necessity. 6. The absurdist is in themselves absurd. They look at suffering and ask to extrapolate one's own meaning. The worry is the worry of death, brought on by others' misdeeds towards them. I don't like granting profound meaning to wickedness. There's a rationality, a calculated interest. I would never say that there's not. It's just too rosy to play philosopher when it's the rightful end of one world. And that's entitled 2. So I'm going to use my time to read one more unnamed and then a couple of selections from my book, and then I shall leave you to whoever is next. But I'm doing untitled and unnamed now because I hit, I want to say 12 untitled, and I was like, no. Now I have to switch to unnamed. And maybe that's some profound commentary on the differences in power between titling and naming. I don't really know or care, but that's my system for these poems. So this one's actually not finished, and it was about my job in the library, which some of you heard me babbling about earlier. So, unnamed 1. I'll need to salt my bed sheets. I've caught a ghost. Tiredly making my way through mazes of books, nudging volumes into place. Cold took to squatting on my shoulders, and I cannot shake whatever it has decided to do. Follow me home and make a mansion of all my silly fears. Said without the veil of romance, I work in a library, and as I go about the monotonous task of shelving, I'm scared shitless by every creak, groan, breath that takes place in the background. Something in my lower intestine just tells me that apparitions love the scenery of rows and rows of untouched novels and lost children wandering the aisles. So that is my unnamed 1. And from there, I'm going to read a couple more and finish a couple in my book. Look at the book. You should buy the book. Hooray, you can buy it from Really Serious Literature. But I have a couple sticky noted suggestions to check out, mostly for me. And I think another one is a dual language poem. Well, not dual language, the title is. I don't write in Spanish that often because I don't have skills. But the title is El Tesoro de Carne Negra, which is the treasure of black flesh. Instead of heads, it'll be hands woven around my waist, pierced at the wrist, threaded through hemp rope dyed violet. I'll make wine of a man beneath my feet, prostrated to appease me, get drunk on purging wrath, inebriated protectors still clear in path. A chorus of trampled cowards who thought wrongly of the wooziness of vision would deter sighted vengeance. You cannot be trusted with the gift of us, blotted out the sun, unhindered expanses of our untreated follicle. Cut circulation wrapped tight on divisions to digits, we said to decolonize chaos, and thank you for its delivery. Supposed disorder is the blessing, revered method. The water you wash with is from our mouths, attending to incantations, bees unbothered by your slander, ignorant to our maintenance on this plane of experience. And so I think I am running thinner on time, so I will read one more short poem and then leave you be. And I actually think the one short poem I will read is one of my first performance pieces. I'm sure Brice has heard this 1,000 times, but it was a piece that I really, really liked. And it ended up in the book because I thought that was a place for it. So I feel like I can't actually find it in this book, and I'm so sorry, but I might just say it from memory. So I think the title in the book is ACAB for a New Era because I'm so provocative and cool. But I think it goes something like this. Want us, pinned hands in prayer, so we kill flies applauding, Always jubilant in a sweltering summer, all holy death, tiny offering cookout so hot, hell yawned, awakened, opened, exoskeletons emptied from clammy palms into earth, but bodies emptied from joyous park gathering into earth. Clap rattle echo of a lost heartbeat, clap rattle echo of a public secret genocide. And that's not the happiest poem to leave you with, but I think that's that's indicative of my whole career as someone who makes poems. So thank you for listening to me. And it was very nice to be invited and share some new stuff with you that I'm still working on, and hopefully one day it'll come together in a collection.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Gwen.
Are we holding questions to the end, feedback? Do we want to offer a quick few minutes for people to ask questions?
Maybe the end, if that's okay with everybody. Yeah.
Sure.
It's kind of an informal Q&A, but I just thought if there's anything you wanted to share about your books, or tell people who want to buy your books, yeah, we could ask some questions. Gwen, that was a gift. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Sorry.
Do we want to, before we move on, do we want to do a quick raffle for Gwendolyn's book?
Yeah, sure. That sounds great.
All right. I will spin the wheel. You might be able to hear it. We'll see.
Okay.
It's Stephanie.
Me?
I don't know if we're allowing that, but
No, it can go to someone else, but if we are allowing that, I'm honored, but it can go to someone else and I'll buy a coffee. Oh my gosh.
all right. Let's try that again. Open it up.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to buy it, so give it to someone else. But what an honor, wow.
Kendra, is Kendra here? Do we have Kendra? Okay.
No, I don't think she's here yet.
Yeah, but I think we do know Kendra. So yeah, we could give it to her.
Okay. If we know Kendra, then
we know Kendra. Thank you so much for doing that. Okay, great. I will go ahead and introduce our next reader. Kelly, are you ready? You feel good? Okay. I will do a brief introduction. So Kelly Weber is the sweetest heart. And I feel extremely lucky to have known Kelly since the dawn of time. In 2014, when I met Kelly at a state college in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska, and I heard them read, and I was just blown away. We used to compete in these poetry slams together, and over the years, I worked on being friends with Kelly. I essentially met them, and I was like, we're going to be friends. If you know me, you know this is how I roll. It's like a loving, forceful friendship with the greatest people. But so this is where I met Kelly, and I've just been blown away at the evolution of their work over time, seeing it from its most intimate, tender form into this beautiful, blossoming chapbook and forthcoming book from Tupelo Press. So Kelly, I'm just so grateful. And I will read the official bio now. Kelly Weber, she, they, is the author of the debut poetry collection, We Are Changed to Dear at the Broken Place, from Tupelo Press 2022, and the chapbook The Dodo Heart Museum from Dancing Girl Press 2021. Their work has appeared or is forthcoming in Hayden's Ferry Review, Southeast Review, Brevity, the Missouri Review, the Journal, Passages North, and elsewhere. What a talented person. And their reviews have appeared in such publications as the Colorado Review, Seneca Review, and the Rumpus. They hold an MFA from Colorado State University and live with 2 wonderful rescue cats. and you can find more of their work at their website, which I'll post in our chat. Please help me welcome Kelly Weber.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. That was, gosh, I feel like I don't need to do any kind of reading after that. That was just so much better than anything I could do. I will say briefly, so my cats both woke up from their deep naps. Oh, a couple of minutes ago, as you can see, they might run across the keyboard every now and again. You can also see that, unfortunately, I do not have a cool bookshelf backdrop. I have this giant cat tree, and they will probably make cameo appearances on it because it's just tiny space. There's kind of no escaping it in the background. So please forgive if my cats go kind of trampling through the frame. But thank you so much to Stephanie for that lovely introduction. It's been so wonderful to be able to continue our writerly friendship for all these years. It does feel like the dawn of time in 2014. And now we're both out here in Colorado, and that's so wonderful. And it's just been such a lovely, sustaining friendship. So thank you. Thank you to 20 Bellows and Tiny Spoon for hosting this reading, and to all of the other writers who are also reading today. I'm very excited to be reading. I'll be reading from a couple things today. One is, since this is a chapbook reading, I'll be reading briefly from some pieces from a chapbook called the Dodo Heart Museum that just came out early last year from Dancing Girl Press. So if you do want to order copies of that, that is available on the Dancing Girl Press's website. Christy Bone was the editor for that. She designed the cover. And then as time allows at the end, I will read a few poems from my forthcoming full-length collection from Tupelo Press. And that is coming out, wow, less than a year now, because it comes out in this coming December. So I will start with the chapbook. So this was a chapbook that is very different from the other kinds of work that I do. So it is technically a hybrid chapbook. So it uses a mix of images from, let me review, make sure that I'm saying the database correctly. So if you go to the British Library's Flickr page, they have all these images in Creative Commons that anybody can use for projects. And it's just all these images that have been uploaded to the database. And it's an interesting, very interesting archive. So I went through and just kind of picked and pulled some of those images and sort of wrote, sometimes in response to them, sometimes in tandem with them, or sometimes just kind of seeing what happened when I mashed them together. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of Zoom and other things, it's going to be a little bit hard to show you the specific images that are involved. So I've picked some pieces that I think will be okay for reading out loud, at least sort of separately from those images. And a lot of these were generated too through systems like Noetry, which is like a text mashup generator. If you haven't ever used that before, it's really awesome for revision, for just seeing your language put in different ways. So I believe that's JGNOETRY is how Noetry is spelled, if you're not familiar with it. So a lot of this was mashups of my own text to kind of create new pieces. And that was sort of the project. So I'm going to read a few things from Dodo Heart Museum and then pieces from the full-length collection. So this first piece is called an echolalia spell. As you can see, my cats are as active as I predicted on the cat tree. An echolalia spell. In case, breeze plastered against glass, pulsing the case wall. Listen for sleep, practice time, boxes mirror pause, spine my own. Answer the horse limbless with patterns. We gather light, absence trembles. Speak want, tender vacuum, speak ghost. A tale plays your shoulders. Desire syntax, less of water, kiss ice. Water saws stories that sucked on hearts, 10,000 deer feet. Slip the molars under the desk and under the language. Fright gazes set in buckets, believing in their hands, flower moon poles. On stage, ribs. The trick is performing. The trick is to be ambiguous female. The trick is wound, blessing. Unfurl the bar stool, back into box. Too much mirror heart, blood bore the exhibit. Remember how you wired your frame to your muscle. To escape the case, build it first. So this chapbook, one thing I was experimenting is making things that felt very different from traditional poems. So my forthcoming full-length book is much more like traditional lyric poems, but I was really interested in this and creating like fake dictionary entries and hybrid texts, as I mentioned. So there's some like fairy tale fabulous pieces in here. And it was thinking somewhat a little bit about Gertrude Stein and others I was reading at the time, but I'm going to read an entry called The Dictionary, and was just trying to think about the lyric in new ways and sort of think about what I could do with language when I sort of let go of the tight reins I sometimes feel over trying to get an idea across. It's called A Dictionary. Blue, noun, a throughness, a rough usage, nail held on a tongue while both hands are tied up in a project fashioning wood. A woman bending over a task of fixing something or sharpening a weapon for her own use. Pearl, adverb, how a comb holds light through slats of an attic on a winter afternoon while shedding one mother's wedding dress to fashion moths into messages. Honey, adjective, legibility transcribed as sound out of stars, old dark coming over mountains, a much of yes and a filling that gathers towards the bottom. Jar, adjective, how one may describe one's throat when wanting to store words there in a circle of glass and keys, making a bird's nest into which stolen syntax gets tucked. Secret, definite article, used for transcription devices, letters, and particular kinds of drawers before going into battle, which is every day, or headed into conversations with men, see battle, opening compartments on words. Goldenrod, verb, to be divided many times as a spine in the course of a multitude, and to be. Okay. So that was the end of that one. And then I'm going to read one of the more kind of prose pieces that's in there. It's a little bit drawing more on some of that fabulous tradition that I find very interesting in texts. So I'm going to read some of that. So this is a collection of rocks. And it's in sections, so I'll just kind of pause in between the sections. One day she found a well in the middle of the street at the intersection of 5th and Maple. Sensing something like glass and sugar at the bottom, she lowered herself down on a rope spun from her own hair. She reached the bottom with no hair, but a woman handed her a bucket full of broken blue bottles and set her cleaning a house that would be her inheritance. The woman sat down across from him for tea. The gray table stood between them. Looking down at her dish, she saw how she might begin to eat the fine porcelain pieces. She looked at him. He was a great boar, rooting his tusks through the flower vase that had tipped over. When she looked back down, her hands were dissolving into water. She stood up and crashed onto the table. All that was left of her was the broken shape of her passing figure made through what they had carved. He challenged the sly fox to a running contest. As he ran through the woods and ducked under branches, he began to notice a line of blood droplets. Some prey animal, he thought, until they grew too large and too much for a pheasant or a rabbit. He diverted off the path long enough to follow the line to the center of the trees. In the shadows, he saw a shape on the ground, a wolf standing on top of it, who recognized the shape as himself. The sly fox's tail disappeared behind a trunk as she raced toward the finish line. All of her brothers had become swans some number of years ago and now roamed the glassine blue of her apartment, leaving their white feathers here and there. One day she thought, I will stitch a cape of these feathers and use it to escape. Sometimes she pressed an ear to the wall to listen to the other lives there, those not tending swan brothers, swan boys who shook their down everywhere, swan men who pecked and hissed and snapped at one another, those living lives that involved reading off little lights in their hands, listening to someone stitch a story out of the air, their eyes grown dark as berries. When she came back from the well, her sisters were jealous. She wore diamond earrings. She listened close. She tucked a light way back in her jaw for whenever she needed it. And so that is the end of that piece. I will, since we do have some Zoom, I don't know how else it's going to show up, but do just want to give you an example of some of the images in here. Gosh, I know it doesn't show up very well, but I did some very, very basic text and imaging editing to sort of create my own collages in here too. So I think I'll read just one more piece from this chapbook to close on, and then I will read some poems from the forthcoming full-length collection. And so this is another kind of one of those poems that was generated through the use of like text mashup with some drafts that I had, and it's called A Colorful Egg. A question for a feather. What kind of blood made you hollow? Silver paper, beauty rib, lick the edges. At the hollows, where have you eaten? Your smile was what made the weeds. Matches can burst into ice. All you need is to begin licking your teeth. She was an edge, not the paper. Old bleeding, the fish speaks to you. Find a wasp nest, call it paper. Find a water, call it art. Plant words to reap a harvest of houses. In the morrow, time eats blue. The answer is no. Each bit of sky carves a tooth. The question is. Again, that's available now from Dancing Girl Press by the lovely Christy Bowen, who is the editor of that journal, or excuse me, that particular chapbook press. And she's got open submissions during various times of the year. So I think I've got, if I'm looking at the clock correctly, about 5 to 10 minutes left. So I'm going to read just a few kind of final poems. So this is from the full length that comes out from Tupelo, I believe December 1st or 2nd. Pre-orders are not quite available yet, but I think another 6 months or so, hopefully those should start to come up, and I'll be posting on socials about that. So the first poem I'm going to read is Arrow Ace Girl Plain Song Elegy. It's a 2-column poem. Traditionally, I kind of read it from left to right, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently this time. I'm going to read it first one column and then the other, just to hear how the words chime differently against each other. So this, as a collection, is thinking a lot about my identity as someone who's asexual and aromantic, and thinking about friendship and the tensions within that. And so this is a poem that is, I guess, sort of thinking about some of those themes. So Airways Girl, Plain Song Elegy. This is how I find you huddled, false bone set and rocking against wall with your tongue wringing winter air. This is how we kneel of a single skies unsnowing. This is how I draw morning cleaved at the marrow. You loved him, a lover, virgin, spinster, frigid, maid, failed, still gripped by osprey, windbreak, pine wood. Where we come from, there is no way to grieve the loss of and wait for the words for what we were. This is front, freeze coming across plains, the blades. Let's take the roads of winter's throat again, from a no trespassing sign, hand it to you like a coneflower, the way you told me. It's the strongest weapon there is. Listening to our breaths, panic grass and the wind gathered to fill, antelope horn clenched in your fist, locked in the white bell of your skull at the broken spot, undone by downstroke, you into the circle of my bones, blue. Say it, you loved him even if you're not straight. This is how we're bound by prairie. This is how we find the revelation in death. Girls don't cry, they weather a friend so fully. The years we spent lying, how we let ourselves feel it in your shoulders exposed and shaking. And I can pluck an antler crowned in snow as a bouquet. You can fold a dictionary page at your sister's wedding, making this thirst, the meadow we come home to, this smaller circle we make together. The next poem I'm going to read is called Actaeon. So something I was thinking a lot about in this forthcoming collection is trying to find myths that sort of hold asexuality and in aromanticism. I was sort of struck by, when I was looking for examples of collections and poems, sort of thinking about this, I was struck by how hard it was to find that, which I found very surprising, even in the age of what feels like there should be just more available. And so I was thinking about how to make a myth for me, sort of, and thinking about that. And I think a lot of the ace community has embraced Artemis as sort of this figure that of thinking about asexuality. And so this was my way of sort of thinking about that myth of Artemis and Actaeon. And so that is the poem. Actaeon. You stumbled here to look at this body, your ring clinking on the neck of the bottle dangling from your right hand, your left parting snowberry at the riverbank to see the hair, the breasts, the hips pitched to blue, water's circles. Line of her back, the bruisable sting of a cactus, areoles scrubbed with current broken silver, silt corset. You came here to bury your habits in the shore and wade to her bathing, to undo the faded sky of your jeans and lick her thighs, to taste mud's veil and gasp your name into the red nave until she was saved from a life without want. Teach her to be a woman, you a man. You were made of every man's hands, fashioned by saliva, desire, rust, power, this. I turned to see and change you into a blunt muzzled hunger, shattered into a furculum of tongues. Skin split by muscles overtaking your body, stones clattering beneath your cleaving hooves as you outrun afternoon's gold and shuck your testicles between a different set of haunches. I make a myth of you to teach us all how to be something better. I take everything we excused you with, lust, libido, my body, and make it wordless. Each of us have carried you for a time, thought of you as our own, this God we have made inside all our bellies, each retelling. He was made to hunt, she to be hunted. With you, we have set the table for the fathers to feast in unending line. I am making a new heart, blood heavy and true behind the flush blind of your nipples. I am trading your voice of brute Godhead for a stag's clean thirst. I am setting you on a new path. The hounds that press close will not be strangers, the sky familiar with teeth. And I'm going to close on the titular poem. This will be the last poem that I read today. Thank you all so much again for listening and attending, to all the readers reading with me, and for Stephanie, Twenty Bellows, and Tiny Spoon for hosting this. So this is We Are Changed to Deer at the Broken Place. And we all find our way here in time, to the house we've made of shame and bone, to the hour of deer licking between our thighs. However you daughter, however you drove back last night, up a highway toward a north you barely remember, along the front range, and woke in this sprawled sheet of bed, rock you've always known in the back of your skull. Each of us has curled beneath the angel's wing, telling us that you deserved this shame, and staggering into a sunrise, slatted pink across the wall, the way she pointed to the line of does cutting behind your house, saying, look, so close to your cheek, the buck scraping the bark from the tree you carved your name into. And you who hated yourself, you who claimed to love others like you, but secretly despised this life you were born into, have stepped out of it into a cleaner light, startled by these bones you're coming into, heart a carnivorous ruby clenched between your teeth, walking toward the sound of all the mothers who guided you this far, who gave you blood. Maybe we can only carry some of this a little ways, as far as we can, and then give it to someone else. Freeway sounds blown on a wind off a highway where nothing dies, and maybe we're tuning it to a radio dilated open to something beautiful, something wise, a shelter in the curve of an on-ramp where we tread ground studded with antlers, picking our way, strong to figure out how to carry through mineral and hair and gasoline, and this voice quiet and static, psalm saying, keep going. Here you are forgiven, you who never did anything wrong in the first place. By such ephemeral light, we lean to one another, we wound into each other's tender bones. Kissing clavicles, we split, and we are changed to deer at the broken place, following a path to water. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you.
Kelly, do you have a book that you would like to raffle? I'm not getting any sound. Okay, there's the link. Let's go ahead and raffle one off. Can everybody hear me? Perfect. Lenora. We have Lenora.
Yes, I'm here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Drop us a message and we'll make sure that you get a copy of Kelly's book.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, I believe we have Brice up next. Correct? So Brice, did you bring someone to introduce you or would you like me to do that?
If you wouldn't mind, that would be very nice.
Sure. Brice was one of Twenty Bellows' earliest poets, reached out to us and submitted some work, and we haven't, we missed him at our first live event, but he's been an early supporter and we appreciate everything that he's been willing to share with us. So without further ado, Brice is a poet from Earth. He is an author of Stupid Flowers and Hero, Victim, Villain. His poetry has been featured by the Denver Post, Tilt West, Boulder Weekly, Suspect Press, and Birdie Magazine. He's the founding editor of South Broadway Press. In 2019, Westward Magazine recognized him as a Colorado creative for his contributions to the Colorado arts community. He does have a website, which we will drop into the link. And take it away, Brice. Thanks for being here.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for the nice intro. Excited to read some poems. It's always an honor to get the chance to read some stuff. And yeah, I've been following 20 Bellows for a while, following Tiny Spoon, and what a great collaboration. And I'm super excited to have some space to share some poems and to hear some really awesome poems. Great stuff, Kelly and Gwendolyn. I'm going to start, I think, appropriately with the poem that was published by 20 Bellows. This is called Sound Reverberated Off of Mountains. Everyone can hear me okay? Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. I don't know about these AirPods. I had some computer issues, so I'm audibly. Sound reverberated off of mountains. I swallowed the city before the city could swallow me. In the anticipation of the haunted smog, which rolls around like Mustangs into the last solid chamber of my America, I watched a dream die, a dream of big thoughts like lightning bolts, large and unsustainable, filling the last pixelated square of unlit wanderlust. And in the unlit wanderlust, I learned to walk by sound. I learned to move by the layered truths of reality. And I learned to love what I have not yet seen, but that which I truly believe exists. I swallowed the city inward like 2 aspirin tablets, past the vacuum of the spaces between my sweet teeth, onward in rivers to the pit of me. I felt the brick walls falling in the canyons of me, like 67,000 soup cans falling down endless flights of stairs. And inside of me, there are endless flights of stairs. And each day I ask myself if I am going to walk downward into them, or if I'm going to climb up them. And on a planet where north is our best guess, I won't know if I'm heading south, but only that these stairs just keep unfolding. The city attempted to swallow me in its placebo fever of death, and I yelled deep into the belly of the city as to make it bounce back against the mountains, in hopes of disorienting the city that I loved into possibly thinking it was and is hearing the voice of God. Because we all are, and I can't argue with you about that of which I am certain. that my God is a God of sound reverberating off mountains, and I push it right back against it until I hear a full mantled chorus of every fire and every flood in my wet, hot life. I think about the way that we give birth is in every way, the way we father our poems and days and then we let them go. I drown in sweaty, undying brows of Om, dripping with the hard work of a soul in its best sunlight. I still plant seeds for later. I swallowed the city, and from my belly the city grew. It grew because I fed it in the belly of me. I still plant seeds for later. For the day the ocean grows sick of our bee sting and swats back at us. I plant seeds for when this world is sick of shooting at itself. For dreams that I dare say already exist, because I was there in them, and you and you and you were there. Thank you, everyone. That poem's on 20 Bellows site. It's also in my second book, which I think we're raffling a copy of at the end here. So if you want to read that or check out more, you definitely can. This next one is kind of, it's about my experiences with ADD and kind of a feeling sometimes of what I'm experiencing not being a problem as much as something that benefits me in some way. So this is a poem called Attention. And my mind begins to water. Wow, good start. Attention, and my mind begins to wander. And some try to keep it to stay or say I'm not listening, but I am listening. And when my mind wanders, it never wanders away from feeding my loved ones or the beautiful conquest of learning to perfectly slice a tomato. It never wanders off the edge of a sharp cliff, and it never wanders into oncoming traffic. No, it wanders to meet with God. Thank you, everyone. That's a newer one, so it's good to try that one out. I've been writing a lot about nature. This is a poem called Advice for Walking into the Forest at Night. You may think it is light that absolves the darkness, but that is not so. Light is but our loveliest way of deferring the truth of darkness. You may think it wise to try to show the darkness that you can outdark it, but this too is not so. For the darkness speaks and has always spoken with the same tongue that lives in the deep hollow of your mouth. There is nothing really but to sit with the darkness, to listen to the pain that exists within its shell, that same pain that in aching time may birth a reverie, or a war, or a garden, or a winter. It is there that an old language is birthed into the light where you will carry with you, like a torch, the darkness of you, the darkness of everything. Phone issues again. Cool. Thank you, everyone. This is a poem, once again, a newer one, thinking a lot about our relationships with nature and our relationships with death. This is like a 2020 poem for sure. I think late 2020, I wrote this one. It's called A Letter to the Office of Death. I am no farmer, and I have never carried a sickle. A blade pulled across wheat is as foreign to me as taking a sick dog and a shotgun far enough into a field where the children will certainly hear the bang, but not the whimper. I have never pulled a barely breathing fox out of the wrapped carnage of the mangling of a barbed wire trap. I have never killed the fox to save my hens. I have never killed my hens to feed my children. My farm is a silent caricature slapped on the plastic label of a neatly frozen fragment, far from the spaceless cage where the soul of the creature once died. Death is no longer any kind of reaper. I write to you a request to cease and desist from this portrait of death as the reaper he no longer is. It seems that death no longer pulls life from the ground with its calloused hands. I suppose the death that we seem to know best is four walls containing a perfect climate and a music that is whatever we need it to be, to cover the sound of the bang as well as the whimper. Thank you, everyone. This next poem, I'm kind of just rolling through, but I guess I'll give you a little context. But this next one is forthcoming for Spit Poet Zine, which is another awesome local press. Started locally. Their founder is now out in the Pacific Northwest, but nevertheless, super cool anarchist zine. Started in Denver. Highly recommend checking them out. This is a poem that's kind of about saying fuck capitalism and productivity sometimes, and just, you know, enjoying your time doing nothing. It's called Rabbit Season. Some terrible advice today. Indulge yourself and then do the thing. A reward is an awful thing to hang over your head. Feed your heart to your heart. Fuck the carrot on the string. They're always yelling so inappropriately about how you are almost there. We've arrived. We're arriving. We're going to arrive. Don't burn your hair off too much about it. If the universe is pulling us away from us, you will not stop me from standing here, watching death in real time, chewing my carrot. Thanks, everyone. It's kind of fun. That I enjoyed that one because it's kind of fun to be like the seemingly bad influence. You know, it's easy to be the hero in your poem sometimes, but I kind of felt like the you know, punk older brother giving bad advice to his siblings when I wrote that one. This next poem is called I'm Waiting for the War to End. Hiro Onoda is a Japanese soldier who, during the war, was left on an island, and he was never, his instructions from his general, I don't know if it was general, but his higher ups, his instructions were do not stop fighting until we come and tell you. So despite pamphlets falling from the sky, despite his family coming to the island he was on to try to stop him from being at war still and fighting and killing people, he just kept fighting for, I think, 20, 30 years after the war ended in Japan. So I wanted to write a poem about that, and it's called I'm Waiting for the War to End. The war never left Hiro Onoda, Japanese soldier, forever on an island. In the autumn of the war, they dropped leaflets from planes singing, it's over, but the war never left for him. They gave him a war, and then he was the war, and home never came for him. I am waiting for the war to end. Above my head, they dropped the leaflets, but all around me are victory songs sang by dead singers. We set fire to our jungle in all of our wilderness that we abandoned there. The war is our cave now, our last meal, every meal. The war is our mother. As softly as a tree on an island on fire, I am waiting for the war to end. Thank you, everyone. I work with South Broadway Press, as James mentioned in the intro, and I just wanted to give a shout out. We've got an anthology forthcoming called Dwell. It's a collection of poems on the theme of home. We are in the phase of fundraising and starting to put the book out. And the funds from the book are going to a local organization called the Village Institute here in Denver. It's kind of at the eastern border of Denver and Aurora. And they're a really cool organization. It's a refugee-run daycare and health clinic. And so we wanted to partner with them. Last year, we did our partnership with Denver Food Rescue, and that went really well. So we wanted to do that with them. Lots of good poets are going to be in this book. Liza Sparks comes to mind because I know she's listening right now. Saeed Sahaya, Eric Francis, who you might know from Slam Nuba, Chrysosto Apache, who I know has worked with Twenty Bellows specifically before. Some really great poets. So If you get a chance to check that out or want more information on that, please feel free to reach out to me. I've just got about 3 more poems here. I think that'll put me at about time. This next one is kind of similar to the other one and about turning off and just stepping away from everything. It's called Traffic. I took all of the televisions in my house, all the laptops, old cell phones, speakers, record players, and I hit play on it all, everything. Each thing a different sound, a different image. Janis Joplin crashing over nature videos, pinballing Alan Watts intersecting Flying Lotus, swarming Amadeus, blasting infomercials, colliding Radiohead, all coming together in original moment of chaos, of traffic. I figured I'd been distilled, left unable to be impressed upon, like an abstract painting, staring exhausted across the hall at another abstract painting. But I still didn't cry, or scream, or smile, or feel much at all. The power blew, and every sparking light inside went out. It was only then, in the absence of all of the electricity, that the river came. I'm gonna kind of just roll in. This next one's called Typo. I had fun with this one. Typo is kind of the story of life abridged. We are each one and all of us all destined to sink until we learn to float. And then at last we've made it into some great academy, void of hierarchy, where we have earned the gift to be. Ears held gently under the water, humming like the secret lungs of the earth. You become a boat and the lake finds its way to you. You become a canoe and find yourself a river, and you stumble down eternal into sure doom and dangerous love through all the ugly trees that threaten the sky you think you own. And as sudden as a slow dance, you become a raft splayed out across an ocean surrounding you like a womb. Whoops, I meant to say tomb. Thank you. This, I got one more. This is another one that Twenty Bellows was nice enough to publish. It's a koan. A koan is a Japanese kind of like, well, not Japanese necessarily. It's a Buddhist riddle of a story. Should be probably more paradoxical than this one is, but I've been enjoying writing koans over the last few years. So this one is called Bus Stop Koan. I sat one day impatiently waiting for the bus. There was snow everywhere, and the bus stop was empty, except for one man with a long beard bundled up heavily. I made eye contact with him, and he in return with me, though neither of us spoke a word to one another. Taking a seat beside him, I looked out at the streets and buildings, all drowned out in white snow. There was a silence between us when the man began to very loudly say, "Ring, ring, ring, ring." Then again, silence. I thought of this as a one-time thing until several minutes later when the man again said, "Ring, ring, ring, ring." I looked at him to assess his well-being, but said nothing. Again, "Ring, ring, 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 ring." He sounded as if he was imitating a telephone. "Ring, ring." "Hello?" I said. "Oh, hello," he said, smiling. "How are you today?" Thank you, everyone. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks for making space.
Thank you, Brice. That particular poem is a lot more fun to hear out loud than on the page. Can you remind us what book we are going to be raffling for you and tell us where we can get it on the shelf?
Yeah, Hero Victim Villain is the name of the book, and you can find it at Mutiny Information Cafe. Perfect. You can also Google my name and the book and find it online as well.
Perfect. All right, let's give it a whirl. Ashley Bunn. Ashley, are you here? Well, we know there. I see her on the list, so she is here. But she may already have a copy. I'm sure she might already have a copy, so she'll have another one.
Perfect. And then I guess we can keep moving along. Quick check-in. Would you all like to take a brief intermission just to take like a little refresher or power through? Nodding of heads for a quick break. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's take about 5 minutes. That sounds good. Cool.
Wonderful. We have one more, and it is Femi Nassi, who is here. Great, you made it. I didn't see you jump in, so. Let me pull up my notes here. Okay, so Femi Nassi is an author, poet, creator, and creator, originally from the Republic of Benin. Benin?
Let me unmute myself. Benin.
Benin, okay.
Yes.
Her current poetry collection, Tropical Winter, is available now. It was published in October 2021. And we will put her website in the chat. It is feminassi.com. So welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Okay, so I will be reading, I think most of the pieces are going to be from the book. So it is titled Tropical Winter, but the name, blurriness, the name is Igba Aye, which in Yoruba language means life cycle. So the book is really focused on the idea that, you know, throughout life, we go through an endless like cycle of ups and downs, you know, and it is divided into two main parts. So there's the written art. So the poems there are to be like fully enjoyed when you read them. And then there's the spoken art. So the book comes with a digital album that you can actually listen to while reading that part. So those are like different poems. And so the first part, that's where the whole life cycle thing comes really into play. And the main three chapters are focused on certain subjects. So the first one is on death. So the poems there are, you know, not the most joyful ones. So that's the space where you're really going through the ending of a phase and it's not always the best. So I'll start with that because for me, that's like, it's usually the beginning of the cycle, even though it's also an ending of another cycle. So I did a note of the ones I want to read, so I'll be like scrolling through pages. Bear with me. Held the knife near my throat, said I love you with every stroke. My fears are strong, big, confident, and bold. Love, you say, it's a language nobody ever taught me how to speak. For these lips have kissed too much pain to still believe. So forgive me if my tongue does not twist the right way, at the right speed, or in the rhythm you wish. You see, I have suffered too many times carrying the weight of old dead lovers to be able to care once more for the wounded heart of another. My room is still filled with boxes of old disappointments, and the closets are now home to the dreams I no longer believe in. There's no more space, you know, to stock new laughter, even tear. I've gotten rid of it, you know, that heart many sought to shed. So most of the poems, I think none of them are actually titled. So, but they all start typically at a new page, so you'll know when it's an ending and when it's just the same one. Let's see. Okay. Oh. On a dark and warm night of August 2019, carrying a bouquet of dried roses, death knocked at my door. I was never the type to love flowers, but for some reason that day, I felt loved for the very first time. She was so beautiful, death, I mean, with dark and deep eyes. She stared right into my soul and saw that which was unknown to living souls. She judged me never once, always seemed to care more than my loved ones. And for the sins I was ready to reveal, I knew only she would still love me the same. So I gave in and gave all, carved out my heart, even my lungs, because breathing means nothing without air, and only death has given me a tank full of oxygen. Mom said not to open doors to strangers. I always listened to her. So never once did I open up either. I've always thought she meant my heart. I loved once, or maybe twice. This is the one thing I can't say for sure. My heart is a Rubik's Cube nobody was ever able to solve. There was a girl who almost did it though. I wonder where she is now. I must have scared her away like I did with the previous ones. How hard must it be to love a person like me? Even I tend to give up sometimes. I have issues nobody can fix and scars I'd rather die before anyone could see. Maybe this thing isn't for me. I'll just have to add it to the list, because who will want to love a girl who has a cube in place of a heart? Step away from the reflection trying to kill you. Has she come to see you, the one that lives within, dragging behind her hunched back a coffin for your dead leaves? Has she come to bless you with the wish of a new life, promising wonders and beauties, reaching higher than your wildest dreams? Oh, where did she come from, that one from the past who has always desired to live your dreaded life? Has she come to nurse you and care for your open wounds, treating every illness with a hint of mild grimness? The clock is ticking, and soon it will be time to fake it. For a long time, I thought I had finally learned how to manage it without feeling too weird. But it hurts. It hurts a lot. And though the smile on my face is genuine, the distress I feel is just as real. Crying will not change a thing. I've tried before. Look where I am today. Even my words are gone. They are lost between feelings, emotions, and understanding. They are wandering around trying to find the right way to build a sentence. Take, talk, take, talk. Let's try this again, shall we? Hi, I don't know what I am, but I know that I am broken. My thoughts are drowning by the hands of my own feelings. There is no such thing as peace. All of this is pure mystery. All of this is pure fiction. My heart longs for suffering. It is the only thing that can still save me from the elephant sitting on my chest, cracking one rib at a time, kissing every inch of my pain. I miss that laughter, those hugs and memories. I miss how every time I was held between arms, my nature as a human was no longer questioned. I miss so many things and so many more. I miss the sun, I miss the moon. Now all I see are shadows of them. Now all I see is an old portrait of who we once were. Let's see. Our fingers tangled like rope under one last ray of sun, an image of our broken union, a reflection of our only connection. Skins touching under the twilight, will love making reconnect us as we rise from the dead and survive another flood, another disaster, another shot. May our moans sing the truth our hearts were never able to. May our touch finally express the caring we could never profess. Today we lie unified, as if the distance keeping us apart was only part of the nightmares that used to keep you up all night. 6 a.m. The sun is staring at us, peeking through the window, watching us fool ourselves once more. Okay, so now to the second part, which is the liminal. And so in the book is titled The Space. So the book is made of, let me just blur this thing because this is like, choose virtual background, none. So welcome to my room, I guess. So the second part is called The Space. And so in that space is really the part of transitioning between who you were before and who you're going to be. So you're not the one you were before, and you're not the next person. So you're still in this weird phase where it's like, how do you put emotions on this? Because in this part of the book, it's not really negative and it's not really positive either. So I'm just going to read a few because this part of the book actually comes with pictures, because I feel like those were the best way to actually express that emotion. So I will show like a few of them. Which one was I going to do? Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is one of the pictures. I don't know if you can see it. I cannot really see because I'm like, anywho, it's me facing a mirror, kind of, and I had no hair back then. Anywho, loving oneself is a tiring journey. You learn to accept the good and the bad, for perfection only exists in the world of dreams, the world of lies. You treat your wounds with the care they deserve and fight your demons as you would anything else. You cry during the day and wonder late at night. Ask yourself when things will finally be all right. You bless your soul for its victories and smile at the moon as the moon brings you a little peace. You walk endlessly toward an unknown realm, hoping to one day make it to the end of this trial. Let's see, this is another picture. It's weird because I don't know what you see. Okay. Dear God, hear my prayer. Hear the lamentation of your child, begging for a hand and a wish, for a new me, rid of darkness, torment, and affliction. Strip this body of the wrong it has committed and scrub away the blame it carries. Release me from the indignity I feel every time my reflection stares back at me. Put an end to the life I used to live and allow me to come back in a new armor, a body proud of itself and the curves of its soulness, one that embraces itself and the complexity that builds its wholeness. Grant me a new Genesis, a chance to write this story over, to shred the old chapters and the pain they brought to earth. Let's see. Okay, I think that was it for that. And fun thing, there's this image, and next to it, oh, not next to that one, but there's one that says to-do list with parentheses after the death. So, you know, after you die, you're supposed to still be able to actually do stuff. So if you don't know what are the things you're supposed to do, I have like 10 steps that I can actually read for you. 1, stay on the ground. 2, scream. 3, accept your death. 4, weep. 5, shed your old skin. 6, breathe. 7, forgive your past sins. 8, believe. 9, open your eyes. 10, live. And so we go to the rebirth, where things are supposed to be more positive. It's a new beginning. It's like, yes, I got this. Yeah. All of that fun stuff. Today I rise, today I heal, today I breathe, kiss my scars and smile for real. We've searched for ourselves in all places, in the clothes we wear, in the lips we've met, in all that is and once was, in our past dreams and the hope we had. We've searched for our love in their arms, the father we've never had, the mother who witnessed our darkest nights, the lover who shared our deepest thoughts, the scars we've held within our hearts. We've given all and even more to them, yet never to ourselves. Why? There's a part of my room that's always clogged with old plastic bags filled with nothing good in it. In them, you could find the things I once owned, the gifts I was given from friends and from foes. There's a part of my mind that's always clogged with old memories of only dark thoughts that speak of the things I once believed in, the words I was given, the blessings and the curses. There's a part of my room that's filled with trash, old newspapers I never read, yet can't seem to get rid of. Old shoe boxes I conserved, for what reason, I'm not quite sure. There's a part of my mind that's filled with evil, old mistakes I can't seem to forgive, old pain I still hang on to. For what reason, I wish I could tell. Today I cleaned my mind. I threw away the pain and forgave the mistakes. I saw the traumas and past experiences, then trashed it all for a new beginning. Today I cleaned my room. Let's see. All right. If you ever start doubting, remember yesterday when you stood up and reached to the sky. Remember the smile on your face as you finally rose from the dead, owning all that is coming towards you. For you deserve this world and everything that it gives you. If you ever start doubting, think of tomorrow, of the thought of today and how you still push through the setback, the worries, the fears, and insecurities. Because no matter what, you've got this. For you are strong and capable, and you are loved and unstoppable. You showed me love when I refused to open my heart. You gave me trust when all I did was push you around. You held me tight even as distance kept us apart. You made me believe with no judgment at all. There are times when I still doubt of the story we wish to tell, times when life makes me wonder if this dream will ever be real. There are nights when I still shiver from the thought of losing myself, and days when I still question the love I hold dear. But despite the worries and doubts, I believe today as I did yesterday in the story that is ours, the love that we've nurtured. So here's to us, to you, to me, to us growing together even when apart, to us living and believing despite it all. You've always been there, haven't you? So that's it for the written art. And I'm just gonna do like 2 from the spoken art. Because usually when I perform, since I kind of separate those, how would I say? So this is actually the first time with the book that I've written poems that were meant to just be read, because I personally enjoy more of the spoken art part where I can translate the energy and all, but virtual studying just makes it weird and I can start yelling in the house. I might be kicked out, so I'm gonna lower it a little bit. But if you listen to the album, you'll kind of have the full experience. All right, let's see. This one, well, they do have titles, so it's titled Imperfectly Beautiful. Have you ever seen your own reflection on the days when you slay yet another dragon, but still manage to wonder, am I good enough? As your mind starts feeling like a sea full of doubts, fear, and stress, maybe there is something wrong with you. Maybe your life is just a really bad joke. Every day you beat yourself up for the times when your tongue slipped, when your actions caused pain. You paint your face with the things they want you to say, hoping to get at least one compliment as gratitude for covering your flaws, your faults. Perfect, flawless, without equal, beyond compare. Those are your aspirations, the things you've been dying for. With knees covered in blood, today is yet another chance to pray the gods to fix your weakness, to wash your blame and make you matchless. But here you are, mistakes. Day after day, picking up that flesh once again after another failed attempt at being everything but yourself. But you know, dear, beauty is all but perfect. Like writing poetry, no matter how good you rhyme, it never feels quite right. There is always something missing, something to make that perfect stanza. Beauty is trying and failing, but still continuing. It is allowing space for mistakes and moving forward despite shame. Beauty, you know, beauty of character, I mean, is an endless flow of ups and downs, like a phoenix rising from its ashes, building up on its wisdom and strength, on the life it once had, and the experiences leading to its rebirth. And though another death is coming ahead, bearing pain and sometimes suffering, another chance is also given to become one with nature's beauty. Tell me, have you ever seen a woman embracing imperfection, understanding that flawless and ideal are all but reachable? Have you ever seen a man reclaiming his own beauty as he swipes away perfection and lives but for the sake of validation? Because what if beauty was really imperfect, like a ground made of flowers, leaves, and this one piece of wood that creates discomfort, but without which nothing will hold together? What if beauty has flaws, pain, and doubt? What if it feels guilty, anxious, depressed, and scared every time it goes through hardship? Will we then reject it for being the way it is, or accept, support, and value it by letting it become its best and true version? But if every time we fall apart, with pieces of us laying on the ground, the one thing that builds us back up is knowing and believing that we are all just imperfectly beautiful beings. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. I know it's hard with the silent applause, but you've all done a wonderful job. I completely missed Marlie's raffle the last time when she wrapped up. So we are going to do both Marlie and Femi. So we'll start out with Marlie real quick, and then we'll switch into sort of a Q&A feedback session. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah, if everyone's still on board with it, we can just take a few minutes if anyone has questions for any of our fabulous writers, if they want to share anything about their work, process questions, things like that. We could do that for about 15 minutes, if that sounds okay. I know we're going a little over and we totally respect your time. So we'll keep things brief, but yeah, that sounds great.
Great. Well, let's grab a couple names from Marlie's book first. Jimmy Pappas. I saw him in here earlier.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Great. So make sure that we have your information. We'll get you, and we will do Femi's now. And Femi, do you want to explain there's the book, and then there's also the spoken word album, correct? So it'll be both.
Yes, so typically in the book, there's I did the virtual thing, the background thingy again.
Yeah.
1 second. Just 1 second. Okay, there we go. So with the book, it has like after a part, it says the spoken art. And so in it has like the digital album's name is like the eyes in the mirror. And it actually has steps for people to purchase it separately. But for this, we can actually, so whoever gets it, then I will send a link and a code so they can download it directly for free because it's on Bandcamp. So typically you can it's a separate thing. So you purchase it separately, but I can send them the code so they can download it. So you just let me know, or I can just send it to you right away and you just forward it to them.
Fantastic. All right, let's pick a name real quick. Kelly Weber. So another one of our readers.
Yay! I'm so excited. Thank you.
So we will make sure that you get both of those. But yeah, thank you so much. Do we want to field any questions or comments or feedback?
Yeah, if anyone has questions, you can we can leave space. You can jump in and ask any of our writers, or you can type them in the chat. We can help and read them out loud for accessibility and everything. So we'll just take a few minutes. And yeah, just another round of applause virtually for everyone who read. Thank you so much. That was such a gift, such a joy. Thank you for sharing your time with us, your space with us, your words and wisdom. We are so grateful. So we'll just leave some space for questions. Oh yeah, okay, we got one from Amy. Did you say the press that published Femi?
So
yeah, go ahead.
I actually did self-publishing because this is my second book. The first one was a sort of memoir, and with this one, I just, since I had a little bit of the experience, I just wanted to go on with that route again and take care of it. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I think if we are comfortable with this, if everybody's comfortable with this, if something occurs to you afterwards, or you want to reach out to any of our readers, just direct that to us and we can get you connected, if everyone's comfortable with that. But I want to echo what Stephanie said about how grateful we are, not only for our readers, but for all of you, because it's not, it's pretty special that people are willing to take their Saturday afternoon to engage in something, like this. Everyone's busy, everyone is overbooked. And so it's really great that you were all able to make it.
Follow Gwendolynn on Instagram. Yeah, if all the writers have like social media pages or anything you want to throw up in the chat before we close today, that would be wonderful so everyone can find you. Yeah, and any final questions or thoughts anyone wants to share?
Thanks for having us all. It was really fun to hear all the different flavors of writing too.
Thank you so much. What a lovely afternoon.
The only thing that I will add is if any of you are in the Northern Colorado area and would like to join 20 Bellows, on February 12th, we will be in Fort Collins at Wolverine Farm. And we are having a sort of a hybrid featured reading and open mic, and not sure how it's going to go. We're kind of monitoring the situation and making sure that everyone's going to be comfortable, and it'll be a great event. But yeah, we'd love to see any and all of you up there. It's free to attend. We are having a donation jar for a local animal rescue, and also encouraging people to support Wolverine Farm since they're donating their space. They're a really great organization. So it's a bit of a drive for a lot of people, but if you're in the area, we would welcome you as both a reader and an attendee.
Thank you, James. Yeah, that's really cool. We'll put it on our calendar too and share it on Tiny Spoon social media. We got one more question from Carly. If any publishers have your books sold out, do you have a preferred place where we purchase them from? So I know Marley's isn't actually out quite yet, but yeah, anyone else? Bookshop. Okay. Not Amazon. Good for you. Yes. Stick it to him. I love that energy.
While we're pitching different other communal things, Tiny Spoon actually has a bunch of different events coming up. So if you just like want some community and want to be in the presence of other people, like please join us. We have our first cut, copy, paste collage night actually this Monday. Is it at 7 p.m. Mountain Time? Is that what it is? Yeah, and it's virtual, so it's another Zoom room. But it's part of our 2-part series of cut, copy, paste. So we already have the original, and for this remix, you take anything from the original and like cut it up, do whatever magic to it, and like see what happens, and that'll be in the new issue. So it'll be super, super fun. So we're gonna have 4 events where we just come together over Zoom and host that space. And we're gonna start, we have a book bingo that's gonna go up, and then we're gonna have a book club affiliated with that, which will also just be like flexible talking, sharing books, sharing what you're reading. So yeah, stay tuned for all of that. But if you are looking for fellow writers, fellow readers, we've got you covered.
Great. Thank you so much. On that note, if no one has anything else to say, I think we can part ways, friends.
Thank you guys all so much. It was so wonderful hearing everybody read. Very nice to come together in poems and essays and writing this afternoon.
Cool. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
One last note there from Jimmy. So thank you for that. If anyone's interested in visiting a Zoom event with the Poetry Society of New Hampshire, he's listed his contact information here. He's the moderator. Jimmy, what is the date on that? Or is that?
Well, I do them every Tuesday. They're pretty interesting. I mean, I get a good following, and it's more interactive. Like we screen share the poem, we talk about it, and the audience just works together, discussing the poetry, end line breaks, whatever. I always have a theme. So if somebody wanted to present, they'd have to have a theme, and I'm booked up through April every Tuesday. It's like taking my life away. It's like every week I'm working on helping people to do a good job, because it's challenging, because they do get hit with questions, unlike a lot of places, all the way through for an hour. So there it is. If you want to contact me, feel free.
Great. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye, everybody.